far over to Hawk Lobby, especially since we've invaded a bunch of countries already. Right, so, okay, right, the anarchists won in Spain officially. And I think they will actually annex Portugal very soon as well. They sometimes do. So, yeah. That's a bit of a boost. Which is good news. So, yeah. As far as the coming war in Europe goes, actually, it's difficult to say. I mean, because it'd be quite good to have Spain on our side. I say our side in sort of air quotes because I'm not actually allied with the syndicalists over here. Oh, finally, People's Army Doctrine's done. Excellent. We're not actually allied with the syndicalists over here. It's a bit similar to how it was in real life between the Soviets and the Allies. We're not technically on each other's side, but it's just sort of an alliance of convenience. Where the friggin' time I'm there, right, okay. Now, large front, please. Oh, that's a shame. Shaposhnikov would have been better for it, but never mind. We'll just use Tugachevsky instead. Now, God, Norway's still going. Are they ever going to give up? Sorry, I don't know what the fuck happened to my frame rate there, but it literally went down to 1 frame a second. For some reason. But anyway, we've also finished artillery research. Now, anyway, what I was saying was the best case scenario essentially for us would actually be not that the Frenchies win against Germany at all. Actually, that would be quite bad because the French have a way of sort of nomming all of Europe, because all this obviously over here is on the side of Germany. So they have a way of sort of going all the way over Europe, and then they reach our border essentially, and you know, because we're sort of technically on their side, it means I'm essentially completely blocked from expanding any further west. So, no, hang on, just let me assign a new tech here. It's getting in the way. I don't know exactly. Ah, Tank 1928. That will do very nicely. I think we have quite... Yeah, the Charkov Factory Design Bureau. They're pretty badass in terms of tank development. They're one of the best tank tech teams in the game, I think. So we'll get them working on post-war Tank 3. And yeah, anyway, so the French winning would essentially block any expansion westward for us, which is bad news, because power lies in Europe, not anywhere else. So the best case scenario would actually be that Germany defeats France and Spain, but does so at such a huge cost that it would make fighting them incredibly easy for us. And I pulled this off once before, quite some time ago, when I was actually playing as Tsarist Russia, whereby, because I was Tsarist Russia, obviously I didn't ally with the French, and I didn't help them out in the war at all, because the French were dirty, dirty communists. More tech teams are done. Flipping heck. They are researching pretty fast, aren't they? Right, well, construction 1930 is done, which means our factories will at least build a bit faster, which is good. And let's research some medicine techs, because that will make our manpower grow a bit faster, which means we can field even more troops. So yeah. Again, I don't think we have a medical tech team, which is a pain in the arse in the extreme, so we'll just have to make do with the petroleum company again working on it. So yeah, basically I was playing Tsarist Russia, and the Germans got in such a prolonged destructive scrap with France that they had, I think, originally about 200 infantry divisions in total at the start of the war with France, and by the time it had finished and they'd occupied France and Spain, they had only 80 infantry divisions left compared to my 300 or so at Russia, which meant that I just, in spite of the fact that I was less technologically advanced than them and my armies were less organised and stuff, I just completely overwhelmed them by just brute force. And that's essentially the strategy I have here. So if France actually beats Germany too fast, this could be a bit of a problem for us. Or if Germany Germany beats France too quickly as well, that would also be a big problem. But anyway, the end of the Spanish Civil War. For good or ill, the Spanish Civil War is now over. The General Staff have reported that they learned many valuable lessons regarding the nature of modern warfare over the course of the conflict. So we have now gained a bit of relations with the anarchists. We've got +5 manpower, Our national descent has changed by -1%, which is lovely. We got a blueprint for 1939 Infantry Division technology, which is actually quite good, because that might almost make researching 1939 infantry a year ahead worth it, because the blueprint will cut down the research time by half. And it'll increase the skill of a couple of our generals too. So that's right. That's good news. Good news ski. I think if the worst comes to the worst and the French actually do end up dominating Europe, I will simply have to expand east and probably south into like India and stuff, and Persia, and probably take out the Ottoman Empire. That sort of stuff. And obviously there will still be an impending war with America one way or another, which I suppose if the French win in Europe will probably go something like, I will ally with them, and then Foremost have declared independence again. Oh, but this time from the King Empire, okay. So I guess what would happen is the French and British would attack the eastern seaboard of the United States, and I would attack the western seaboard and Alaska, I guess. That'd be the way it went down, probably. Provided the AI was clever enough to actually mount a seaborne invasion of the continental United States, in which otherwise I'd probably be just alone in my fight against the US, which would not be fun. But that might well happen anyway if I win in Europe. But of course, if I win in Europe, fighting the US will be much, much easier, because I will have so much more stuff to play around with. More resources and manpower and industrial capacity, you see. Shit, what was he researching? Tanks, wasn't he? More tanks, please. Thank you. Not that we can build any at this point, but I'd like to get the research on the drawing board regardless. We currently need no reinforcements, so I'll bump that all into upgrades. So we now have 31 going into upgrades, in spite of the fact we need 850, which is terrible, but that always happens as Russia. You always end up with like an insane number of upgrades required, and quite often a very legitimate strategy as Russia is to just not upgrade anything and just essentially quote-unquote upgrade your armies by simply building more divisions that are more upgraded than they are, and phase out the old ones eventually, and do it that way instead of individually upgrading those actual divisions themselves. So yeah, that was Interceptor 937, so that was an aircraft tech, but as much as I like aircraft, they're not a big priority for us at the minute, so let's get some research done on this 1939 infantry we now have a blueprint for. Especially since I have a feeling we're probably not the only country who got a blueprint from that little event. I bet the French and Germans did too, so... Germany had Unser Kampf, the movie. That's quite funny, actually. What that is like in the Kaiserreich universe, you know how Hitler wrote Mein Kampf, basically. In the Kaiserreich universe, the book was called Unser Kampf, Our Struggle, as opposed to My Struggle, and it was about, like, it had, like, eyewitness accounts of sort of, like, all sorts of German soldiers from the First World War. Amongst them was Adolf Hitler. And apparently it becomes, like, a massive hit, and, like, they turn it into a film and stuff. It's quite hilarious. Early hospital systems done, lovely. Right, well, how about the next level of hospitals? How about that, eh? Basic hospitals. Go! New nation. The Tuareg Confederation has declared independence from their former oppressors in national France. I see. Alright, yeah, national France are basically like the former French African colonies, which still are home to the former, well, you know, the French government in exile following the French Revolution and stuff. It's basically like how Canada is, but for the French. They're fairly unimportant though. No one really cares about them, and they basically do absolutely nothing for the entire game. Same for both them and Canada. Kurdistan is free from the Ottoman Empire, and the Ottoman Empire declared war on Kurdistan, so we've got a revolt in Kurdistan and a revolt in Africa. I see. Oh, and Sweden finally have annexed Norway. Oh my goodness. Took them long enough, didn't it? Oh, and the Ottoman Empire is at war with Albania now as well for some reason. Fine, whatever. Not my concern. Okay, so interesting and not particularly interesting. Right, so bits of national France are breaking off and declaring independence. That's wonderful. And America has rebuilt quite a lot of its industrial capacity. It's now got 209 back as opposed to like the 30 or so it had before. Which I suppose is bad, but also good in the sense that it's still not a whole lot compared to what it had before the war. And the Ottoman Empire is now at war with Libya as well. Okay. Fine. I wonder if the Ottomans are going to completely break apart. That'd be interesting. Post-war Tank 4 is done, and National France have annexed the Tuaregs already. Fantastic. Armored artillery. Light Tank 36, please, because that's required. Alright, Light Tank 39 is required for Medium Tank 39, and medium tanks are the bread and butter of late Russian armies. Cyprus has declared independence from the Ottoman Empire. Goodness me. That didn't last very long. Anyway. What else is going down in the hood? I can't tell who's winning here between the Japanese and the Chinese, to be honest. Although they have liberated Formosa. And we have finished our medicine research. I'll leave that alone for now. And focus on basic computing instead, because we need to get our computer skills up to scratch. Because otherwise, we will be left in the dirt by Germany. And computers are important because, well, ordinary computing research increases the rate at which you research everything else. But also, the encryption and decryption texts that are associated with it are important because it allows you to better get an idea of enemy military movements. Say, for example, here you see next to all my infantry divisions, like you have how many of them there are, a little number underneath, like 3, 5, 4, and you see these white Ruthenian ones which have one question mark, which basically means that they possibly have one, but it's a rough estimate of how many they actually have there. Now, to get a more exact idea of how many infantry divisions they actually have there, you research decryption texts. And if you get too far behind with the decryption text, the one question mark is replaced entirely by question marks, so you have absolutely no idea how many troops are there, which obviously is pretty bad because it makes fighting a war incredibly difficult because you don't know whether you're attacking 10 divisions or whether you're attacking 1 division. And you don't know where to defend from, you know, more importantly. So yeah, I'm thinking it's probably time to start getting back a few more territories. I think primarily Turkestan. Next one on the list, I don't know, maybe Azerbaijan. They are a tiny little nation, but they do still have an extra 10 industrial capacity I would like to get my hands on. It would also give us a little border with Persia, which is another potential avenue for expansion, since... oh, hello, they do actually have a military alliance with Egypt and Hashemite Arabia, so maybe I wouldn't go to war with them. But even so, what about Azerbaijan? Right, no, they have claims on us, but they don't have any military alliances or anything, unlike Armenia, for instance, who... Oh, okay, right, well, sometimes Armenia have their independence guaranteed by the Ottoman Empire, but this time apparently they don't. So I might actually invade Armenia and Azerbaijan. With which I shall... Let's get a few more divisions down there. So let's move you down there. And let's move you down there. And let's move a few extra guys into Georgia, just to make sure the Georgians don't get annexed